history buffs and Maastricht lovers out there, your weekly 5 minutes of getting you up to starting speed on one of the interesting locations in Maastricht. I thought today I would talk about one of the big convent monastery buildings we have in the city. There's loads of them. There were even more. This particular order belongs to a wave of orders that were monastic orders that were founded in the High Middle Ages, so 12th, 13th century. This is also the era in which in Europe, Western Europe, cities are coming back. After the dissolution and the decay of the very urban Roman Empire, quite a few cities were deserted or disappeared altogether. But in the 12th, 13th century, there's a new drive to build out larger settlements where people could be free, where they were not subjected to the same harsh regimens that applied in the countryside, where people lived under the authority of lords, knights. This urban renewal went hand in hand with a great need for a renewal in the church. Many felt it had become too rich, too powerful, too lax, too decadent, immoral, unjust, just lording it over the people like all the other lords. This was, of course, the core of the criticism that Martin Luther leveled at the church in the 15th century, which caused a great rift between what are now the Catholics and the Protestants. Luther was protesting the abuses. He was not the first, he was not the only one. And the monastic orders I want to put a spotlight on today were already doing that in the 12th century. These orders were generally not intended to become orders. The founder of the Franciscans was not out to start an order. His name was Francis, hence Franciscans. Francis of Assisi, he was from a wealthy family, living it up. You know, the rich young kid, happily galloping about until he got ill and saw a few deeper truths in life and decided to forsake all worldly goods and pursuits and spent the rest of his life preaching, bringing people, and if they would not listen, bringing the animals back to the true faith, back to God. The present Pope, Francis, took his name Francis from this Francis of Assisi to follow his example of simplicity and deep faith and taking care where possible of the poorest in a society. Their followers, Francis's followers and the female followers of his colleague, so to speak, Clara, they made a vow to remain poor. Not only they themselves personally, but also, and that was a new thing, for the monasteries that they wound up founding. Of course, that never worked for very long because the grateful faithful would keep donating stuff. So even in spite of themselves, they would become rich. Still, the two churches that Maastricht still has that were made by the Franciscans and their comparable order, the Dominicans, now the bookstore, you all know it. They are large, simple preaching halls. And it is very, very fortunate that both those churches still exist, even though both their monasteries have disappeared to a large extent. The Franciscans were driven out of the city twice, 3 times, and last time they were allowed to come back, they had given up on their original church and monastery and built a new one, which is now the administration building of the University of Maastricht. They also built a third one that no longer exists. The first one, still standing, is also publicly accessible after long years of having served as a military arsenal and an orphanage and all sorts of things. Today it houses the archives, and when everything opens back up, they will be very happy to welcome you. Go and have a look, wander about the building, and maybe even ask for a tour in the 4 stories of underground bunkers where the archives are kept.